Good morning, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Hopefully you all can hear me okay. Let's see. Why is Facebook not letting me go live? Oh, there it goes. Good. Good morning to everyone. Thank you all for being here. Glad to see lots of people joining in right away. That is great. If you're watching this on not Instagram, we are trying to show the chat, part of the chat at least, with any luck that will function. We're always experimenting here. So, I have a lot to talk about today. First things first, while everyone's trickling in, let's talk about Tilt real fast before we go on a long spiel about re-entry tournaments. So, first things first, how to go get off of Tilt. Well, clearly, the ideal thing to do is to not go on Tilt in the first place. If you don't go on Tilt, you won't have to get off of Tilt, right? However, I do understand sometimes you will be playing and bad things happen. You end up getting it all into the nuts and you get unlucky, or maybe the cocktail waitress spills her drink on you. Whatever you don't enjoy, that may put you on Tilt. So, don't let that happen. When you're on Tilt, what can you do to get off Tilt, though? You're sitting there, you're steaming, you know you're steaming. What should you do? First things first, I suggest you get up and take a little walk. You don't have to go too far. Just, go a little ways away. If you find that you are steaming, get away from the current situation. Being in that situation will hinder your thought processes, right? So, take a little walk. Also, try to remind yourself that you are doing what you want to be doing. Remember, you are essentially paying to go play poker, right? So if you're paying to go play poker, you want to make sure that you are constantly thinking logically and not losing your mind, right? So don't lose your mind. Be smart. Other things you can do are think of things that motivate you, right? Like, let's say you have a family and you're playing for your family, or you don't have a family and you're playing for your future, right? If you are trying to grow a bankroll to better your life, well, don't go on Tilt, right? If you're on Tilt and you're playing poorly, you're essentially saying, I value my short-term emotions over my future. That's a little bit silly. Don't value your short-term emotions over your future. So anyway, those are a few tips to get off Tilt. Main topic of the day, though, re-entry tournaments. Normally, I have a little note that looks like this. How to get off Tilt. I don't know if you all can see it. It's very bright. Well, anyway. I need 2 note cards for this topic, though. Re-entry tournaments, if you can see the text. It's a lot of scribbles. I basically wrote an article on here. Okay. First things first. It's important to understand incentives. Why do people do what they do? Why do casinos do what they do? There are a lot of reasons. Before we get into re-entry tournaments, let's talk about history. A lot of people don't know history. They don't think about history. They don't understand history. I don't know all the history because I'm not that old of a man. But there used to not be re-entry tournaments. That didn't exist. There were freeze-out tournaments and there were cash games. A freeze-out is a tournament where you cannot re-enter. Fine. Then, at some point, people came up with the idea of a rebuy tournament. I don't exactly know when this happened, but rebuy tournaments were definitely used at the World Series and were also used at various other casinos. So one problem with rebuy tournaments is that, in theory, if you know you are a good player, you want to flood your table with chips so that whenever the rebuy period is over, you and the rest of the table has a lot of chips, and then if you have a skill advantage, you are there to collect them, right? So the difference between a rebuy and a re-entry, by the way, whenever you rebuy, if you go broke at the table, you can get more chips at the table, you stay in the same seat. In a re-entry tournament, you have to go back to the cage, buy in, and then they give you a different ticket, so you don't get to pick your table. Whereas whenever you're at a rebuy tournament, you're sitting at the same table, so you're essentially in this situation, you know where you're going to be if you rebuy, and that should dictate your strategy, right? Say you're at a table full of absolute horrible players. Well, clearly you want to rebuy infinitely, right? So anyway, they ended rebuy tournaments in 2009 at the World Series of Poker. 2009. How many of you were playing poker in 2009 seriously? I don't know. Maybe some, maybe not. Maybe none. I don't know. But in 2009, they ended it. You may ask, why did they end it? Well, in 2008, a player named Lane Flack, back-to-back Flack, because he won 2 World Series events back-to-back. Maybe twice, actually. Sounds maybe like it's right. I don't know for sure. Anyway, he rebought 24 times in a $1,500 pot limit Omaha tournament. And he needed to get 12th place to win. Or to break even. But he didn't just take 12th place. He won. Okay. This has happened a few times in the past. I believe Daniel Negreanu rebought a ton of times in a no-limit hold'em tournament one time. And online, it happened a lot too. Online, the strategy is not so useful because they break tables online randomly. PokerStars used to have a $10 and a $100 and bigger ones, but the 10 and the 100 are the ones that I used to play on a regular basis. They had rebuy tournaments, and a reasonable strategy, if everyone plays poorly at your table, is to just go all in a ton. And then after the rebuy period's over, you're sitting there with 5,000 big blinds, and everybody else is too. And, you bought all those chips, but on average, you're going to win those back. This assumes you have a gigantic skill advantage. A gigantic skill advantage, which may or may not be the case, right? But if you are a very good player and you think your opponents are terrible, because you're sitting there, you're playing with them, you know if they're good or bad, you can flood the table with chips, you have a higher chance to get them back. So that's a problem. So what can they do to fix this? Well, they can break tables randomly, which they do online, but even then it still didn't stop this because there'd be a million tables, right? Because there are tons of people playing a $10 tournament. That's really about it. Or whenever someone rebuys, you have to make them go to a new table. Fine. A few other problems with rebuy tournaments. In live casinos, very often you would rebuy at the table. So you bust from a $1,000 tournament, you take $1,000 out of your pocket, you give it to the dealer sticks it in his tray and gives you a chip. 1,000 chip, or whatever it is. There were a few situations where the prize pool came up a little bit short. So either the casino floor people were stealing the chips, or the dealers were stealing the money, the cash. This didn't happen very often, of course, but it did. There were a few instances. I don't remember the exact instances, but it happened. So how can we get rid of this? Well, we need to make everyone go to the cage to buy in. Okay. In 2009, maybe 2010, I think it was Venetian. I could be wrong about this, but I think it was Venetian that first started having re-entry tournaments. Venetian's done a lot of innovative things that have worked out very well for them. They've also done a lot of things to piss off poker players. But a few of the things they did right is they came out with these deep stack tournaments, right? We're going to give everyone a lot of chips because amateurs want chips. But in reality, they just doubled the blinds or tripled the blinds, and it's the same structure. But they have a lot of chips, right? They did that. They also, I believe they started with re-entry tournaments. And these are good things that got people in the door. All right, anyway. That's sort of the history of re-entry tournaments. And I believe they started right around 2009, 2010. In 2011, I, along with a bunch of other poker players, were asked, what do we think about re-entry tournaments? I think the article is by Julio Rodriguez for Card Player Magazine. You can Google it. And they asked me. And I said, I think they're terrible. And basically all the other pros did too. Why do we think they're terrible? Because, well, let's think about a few things, right? This is where we're going to talk about incentives. And what you're trying to accomplish, what you want out of life. Whenever you go and do anything, you're essentially making a transaction. You are trading something to get something else. Right now, you're trading your time to listen to me and hopefully get presumably information or entertainment or wherever you're here. And you presume it's a valuable trade, a good trade for you, right? Whenever you play poker, what are you trading? What's happening with my little program? My chat program is not functioning right. Maybe it is working right. Okay. Whenever you go play poker, what's happening? Well, if you're a good player, a winning player, you are trading time for money, right? / equity. If you're a bad player, you're a losing player, what are you doing? Or even a break-even player. What are you doing? You're trading money for an experience. You're doing one of these two things all the time. You're either trading time for money, or you're trading money for an experience. Okay? Fine. whenever recreational players play, they are not thinking, okay, I'm going to go give away money in exchange for an experience. But that is what they are doing. And the neat thing about poker, compared to other games, is that very often you don't know which side of the equation you're on. Often you think you're trading time for money, but really you're trading time for experience, but you don't even want the experience. You want the money. So a lot of people don't quite know exactly what they are doing, what exactly they are trading, and that's important. You need to really accurately analyze these things that are going on. I mean, if you go to learn a new game, let's say I'm a good No Limit Hold'em player, but I want to learn Pot Limit Omaha, I'm not thinking I'm going to go play Pot Limit Omaha for the first time and I'm going to win money. It's not what I'm thinking, right? If you're anywhere near competent, that should not be what you're thinking. You're thinking, I'm going to go trade time and money to get experience so that hopefully I have an edge in this game in the future and it becomes worth playing. Okay. Re-entry tournaments. Knowing this, whenever we go to buy into re-entry tournaments, what are we doing? First off, when you buy in at the beginning of the tournament, it's exactly like a regular tournament. A lot of people assume that it is drastically different because you can rebuy or re-enter, right? But it's essentially the same game. You should not be making too many gigantic strategic adjustments. That's usually going to be a mistake. Uncle Eddie's the morning shout-out. He's here every day. Good morning, Uncle Eddie. Good morning to everyone here, by the way. Always happy to have all of you here. You say this is like paying for a college course. It's like paying for a college course but paying in installments. Sort of. Anyway, back to the question at hand. Re-entry tournaments. Whenever you're a pro, a winning player, not just a pro, but a winning player, you can be a recreational player and be winning. If you're a winning player, when you buy in, you're trading, let's say it's a $1,000 buy-in. You're giving $1,000, expecting to get back $1,500, right? Every time you buy in. Now, as the structure of the tournament gets worse, your return on investment will go down. That's known, but often, if you're good, you'll still have a large return on investment, even if you buy in 3 hours late, right? There is no difference between buying in 3 hours late and buying in on time if you have the same edge. Or even if your edge is different, you still have an edge, right? So it doesn't matter if you buy into the tournament on time, bust, and then rebuy again. In terms of like your expectation. A lot of people think, oh, I don't like re-entry tournaments because if I bust, I now have to make a deep run to make any sort of money. Because usually they pay 15% of the field, and the top 15% of the field get a buy-in and a half back, or 1.7 buy-ins. But you put in 2 buy-ins, so you actually lose money. Feels bad. I remember on one of the first re-entry tournaments I had at the Bicycle Casino. It was a World Poker Tour tournament. It was a $5,000 buy-in tournament. I bought in twice. I cashed for like $9,800. I thought, man, why would they just not make it $10,000 so at least I break even? Anyway, every time you buy in, it is an individual entry. If you're a winning player, you make money every time you enter. If you're a losing player, you lose money every time you enter. And you understand this. You should understand this. You don't necessarily think this, but you're accepting this. Whenever you buy in, you are, again, trading time for money or money for an experience. Okay. Let's see. So, knowing that, are re-entry tournaments good for the pros or good for the amateurs? Think about it for a second. I'm going to have a sip of my tea. We have pu'er tea this morning. Most mornings we're going to have tea and not coffee, but I wish I could have coffee every morning. The reason I don't have coffee every morning is I like to conserve it for poker tournament time where I actually need the kick. Okay. Re-entry tournaments are good for pros, assuming the goal is to make money. Right? Because every time I buy in, we make money. Re-entry tournaments are definitively bad for recreational players, assuming their goal is to make money. But, very, very important, this is something almost no one grasps. The goal of a recreational player is not to win money. They think their goal is to win money, but it's really not. Remember, they're trading money for an experience. Like when you go to the movies. You're not expecting to make money when you go to the movies. You're giving money to get an experience. Recreational players are giving money to get an experience, just like when you go to the movie, or just like when you do anything, right? Okay. Next, knowing this, are re-entry tournaments bad? Well, in that article I was quoted in 2011, I essentially said I thought they were awful and they would make all the bad players go broke quickly. Turns out there's a lot of money to go around. Some people thought that the reason re-entry tournaments were introduced was because tournaments were having a tougher time getting $10,000 buy-ins or high-stakes tournaments to run, which they were. Like at Foxwoods, for example, the time I won it had like, I don't even know, something like 500 people or 400 people. And then just like 3 years later, it had 70 people or something like this. And that's a problem, right? So they decided the economy is bad. So we're going to decrease the buy-ins of all the tournaments by 66%, but make them all re-entry. And, that really has gotten numbers up in terms of buy-ins. And, it's a neat thing. So, the players are not the only people at play here, right? Oh, let's go back to the bad players. Should the bad players be happy with re-entry tournaments? Well, remember, if I'm a bad player, I want an experience, right? If I go to play poker, if I go to a tournament, I drive from Pensacola, Florida to Biloxi. It takes me 2 hours to get there. If I bust on the third hand, was that much of an experience? The answer is absolutely not, right? It's a horrible experience. It's not good. So, I want to make sure I get a longer experience. How do I get a longer experience? Well, we get to re-enter. So re-entries are great for people who want to have a longer experience, which are the recreational players. The problem, though, is they may run out of money. Remember, they're trading money for an experience. If they run out of money, they don't get any more experience. So, will the bad players run out of money? I thought they would. And I was wrong about this. They did not. Tournaments are still getting large fields. And I think that's because, at least in the higher stakes games, the ones that happen every 3 months or every 6 months, a lot of people can scrounge together a buy-in or two. And, maybe they don't play every one. Maybe they play only twice a year or once a year. And somehow the recreational players have figured out a way not to go broke. And I guess that's good. There's more money to go around than I assumed there was. Or, which is probably accurate, maybe the edge of the good players has diminished, right? A lot of re-entry tournaments now feature awful structures. I know some of them, they'll let you re-enter for like 8 levels where you can buy in again with something like 8 big blinds. And that's just absurd. No one has an edge with 8 big blinds. And also, the tournaments now have like 40-minute levels where, as they used to have, an hour and a half levels. This decreases the edge of the good players, which is good for the bad players. So, in my mind, as a pro, what do I want? Do I want to win a lot of money now? Or do I want to have a long, profitable career? A lot of short-sighted pros think about, what do I want exactly right now? And I think that's wrong. You need to be thinking, how do I shear the sheep instead of kill the sheep, right? And re-entry tournaments, in my mind, would kill the sheep, whereas regular tournaments would shear the sheep. So, getting lost, I have a million pages of notes. Where are we going with this? People find a way to come up with money, and as long as they're finding a way to come up with money, re-entry tournaments are perfectly fine for everyone. Because good players make more money, bad players lose more money, but they get more experience. And it turns out they're finding a way to get more money. Some people think that re-entry tournaments favor the people who can buy in more, and they don't really. You're going to win more often because you are buying in more times, but each individual entry, still, you have whatever expectation you have. If you're a bad player and you're losing losing more money every time you buy in. If you're a good player, every time you buy in, you're winning more money. Okay. Players are not the only people in play here. Who else plays poker when you're playing? Take a second, think about it. Type it in. Everyone type in who else is playing. Shot Caller says, you love my analysis on poker news. Great. I have a lot more videos on YouTube. YouTube.com/floattheturn has all sorts of training videos. Explain the shirt. This shirt's actually a poker coaching shirt. I guess you all can't see it. Poker Coaching is my site. That's the shirt. Pat G got it. What's up, though, got it? The answer is the casino. The casino is also playing. Whenever there used to be rebuy tournaments, there was no rake on the rebuy. Right? Given there's no rake on the rebuy, casinos would essentially allow players to play very, very deep stacked, slow tournaments for no additional rake. Well, that doesn't make sense, right? Casinos often are somewhat short-sighted, and they want to kill the sheep. They want to take your money as fast as they can. Because maybe they have a longer sample size than I do. They understand people will come up with more money to gamble. So they want you to give them more rake. How do we get them to give you... How do they get you to give them more rake? Well, they make the structures fast, they decrease edges, and they let you re-enter as long as you want, right? So, going back to how I said the structures are worse, every time... Imagine back in the past, let's assume a casino has two options. They can run a $10,000 freeze-out, or they can run a $3,500 buy-in re-entry tournament. $10,000 tournament has, let's say, $400 rake. Re-entry tournament has $350 rake, which is kind of how they ended up playing out. They get more rake on the one individual entry for the $10,000 tournament, but people re-enter, I don't know the numbers, I'm sure a casino knows. I would guess like 1.8 times on average, maybe more. So now they're getting $700, or let's call it $600 in rake. They've just 1.5x their rake, while also giving the pros what they want, while also giving the recreational players what they want. Genius. This works out wonderfully as long as pros maintain an edge, which it is diminishing because the structures are worse, and as long as the bad players don't run out of money, which they have not yet. Question is, when will they run out of money? I'm not sure when they'll run out of money, but presumably one day they will run out of money. A lot of people think the economy matters significantly when it comes to people having money, and I don't really know if I buy into this. I mean, I guess I do, because you saw the very high stakes tournaments for a while when the cryptocurrencies were booming. There were all sorts of just random okay poker players in them, and now the cryptocurrencies are in the dumpster. Now the fields are much smaller. So that's certainly a logical thought process. Usually, I don't think the regular stock market booms as much as other more volatile assets, but maybe it does. So anyway, casinos make much more money with re-entry tournaments compared to non-re-entry tournaments. So they're really happy. Do I think the edge is diminishing because recreational players are better on average than they used to be? Well, yeah, there are two reasons why edges diminish. Two main reasons. Recreational players get better, and structures get worse, or rate gets higher in theory, right? So those are things that will drastically diminish the edge of the pros. Where are we going from this? The main takeaway from this is that you really, 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 really need to have a look at yourself and your incentives. What are you actually getting when you go to play a poker tournament? A lot of people think they are going to win money. And that's really not it. They're not thinking deeply enough. They are actually going to gamble. They're going for an experience. They're going to have a social group. They're going to do things beyond just winning money. I wrote an article on the reasons people play games, and also the three types of players. And if you think you are losing money, then when you're playing, you are playing for experience. And how do you know if you're a losing player? You keep track of your results. Someone mentioned to me today that, they're going to go play... They normally play tournaments, but they're going to go play 1-2 today to test their skills. But that is an asinine thought process. You need to think long-term. Do not think, I played a 10,000-person tournament and I won it, therefore I must be great. It's not how life works. Pat says, if experience is the cake, if you win, it is the icing. Listen, again, short-term variance, right? If you're a bad player, you're going to lose money. Definitively. Long-term. Sometimes you can get lucky. And, maybe you're a player who will never get to the long-term. I know a lot of casino players, like slot machine players, realize they're going to go and they're going to play slot machines or video poker or blackjack or whatever. they're going to blast it, and they're going to do this once a month. They're never going to get to the long term. They're either going to lose some or they're going to win some, and that's it. They're going to be up or they're going to be down. It is what it is. But across the board, whenever you play, you're going to lose money if you're a losing player. You're going to win money if you're a winning player. It really is as simple as that. What sort of an edge does a good player have in a $400 World Series of Poker event, in my opinion? Depends on how good they are, right? If you're the best player in the world, you probably have 200, 300% ROI, depending on the structure, right? You did not list many things. You did not list your edge. You did not list the structure. You did not list how bad the players are. You did not list the rake. You're not taking many, many things into account. Very, very important to take all the things into account. If you are a barely winning 1-2 player, and you're okay at tournaments, or you're like a barely winning tournament player, you're going to win at 2% ROI, maybe none because of the rake. If you are the absolute best player in the world, you could have a very high ROI. I definitely do think very high ROIs are possible. And when you see people going on very hot runs, either they're running hot. This is usually the case in the very high buy-in tournaments. Often those players are not doing anything particularly special. They're just running hot. Or in small stakes tournaments with gigantic fields, often the players are doing something that exploits the particular players in their games. Maybe they're just sickos and they know how to exploit everyone, or the vast majority of players. Like whenever I was on my great run to win all these trophies back here, I was playing very aggressively, and players were defending against aggression very poorly, right? My strategies that I had learned, probably naturally just in my course of study, happened to be very, very good against the field. So I crushed it. The field eventually adapted, and that edge that I had probably went away. So we have to find new edges. If you look at someone like Ari Engel, he does a lot of crazy stuff. I've seen him make gigantic folds, and I've seen him make gigantic calls and gigantic bluffs and absurd value bets, and it's all with a method. He's very good at exploiting, especially bad players, in my opinion, and even good players. And that's going to lead to very gigantic return on investments. All right, let's see. Do I still have some crypto? I'm answering some questions. I never mentioned if I had some crypto. Probably. Again, it's really, really dumb, in my opinion, to say how much money you have in something. It's not smart. For many, many reasons, I'm sure you can figure it out. Someone's talking about sports betting. We're not going to talk about sports betting. Someone else wants to know about my finances. If you're a decent cash game player and you get into tournaments, what type of tournaments would I recommend starting with? Tiny buy-ins. Yeah, tiny buy-ins, play deep stacked, because that's where your skills are most likely. Where's Mr. James? He's having breakfast. All right. If anyone has any questions, let me know, by the way. I have to leave in not too long because I have an appointment at 10. Let's see what else I had to say about reentry tournaments. So yeah, I guess what this really amounted to is I was wrong. I thought recreational players would wisen up quickly. And also I thought they would run out of money. Recreational players have not wisened up, and they have not ran out of money. Two things I was very wrong about. And whenever you're wrong about something, it's important to try to assess why you were wrong. I sort of have this theory, and I think it's definitively true, but I was wrong about the time frame. I think that people always get better at games over time, right? Because they're getting experience. The thing is, though, if you watch a lot of poker players play, they're really not learning as they play. They look at their bad results and think they were unlucky. And they do this over and over and over again. Maybe this is some issue with gamblers in general. They think that their bad results are not their fault. And maybe this is a person thing that applies to everyday life. I assumed that most people would figure out that they were doing something wrong. Right? And that's proven to take more time. I mean, you see games like chess, right? In chess, no one plays for money. In backgammon used to be a hardcore gambling game. Gin Rummy, right? These were all very, very hardcore gambling games until People solve them. And then all you have to do is solve the game, and then you'll never lose money again, or never lose equity again, right? So, will poker end up like backgammon? That's really the question. Because there are like clear models of other games that have gone through progressions like poker. There used to be gigantic backgammon terms where people would buy in for lots of money and play, and now they get no players. So, poor connection on Instagram. That's not good. Seems like it's back. Will poker go the way of backgammon? I don't think so. But it may eventually. I mean, the question is how long will it take? Not if it will happen. I think it's how long it will take. I think if you give poker another 1,000 years, it's probably going to be dead. Someone used to send me tons of messages asking, should I go pro? How long will a nice edge last? And the answer is I don't know. I thought re-entry tournaments would die a long time ago. But they didn't. If anything, they've thrived because recreational players have figured out a way to get money. Someone keeps saying, or someone has said, where is it? Recreational players will always have money as long as they have a job. The problem is you can lose a lot of money playing poker. If you have a $5,000 or $3,500 local tournament every quarter in your local casino, and you have minus 50% ROI, and you play it twice on average, that means you lose $3,500 every quarter. It's $14,000 a year into the dumpster. You gotta have a pretty good job to lose $14,000 a year in equity, right? I mean, if you make $60,000 a year, that's like 24% of your income just going straight in the dumpster. I find that hard to believe that people can just throw 24% of their income in the dumpster, but maybe they can. Hey, I don't know. So I was wrong about that. Maybe people are just willing to throw 24% of their income into the dumpster. I mean, this is a good job too. Someone with $60,000 a year income, that's not chump change. So it's cool. I was wrong about this. It's good whenever you're wrong, because it lets you reflect and figure out where you went wrong and see how you can improve in the future. But yeah, whenever you're playing, try to understand what transaction you are making. Are you trading time for money, or are you trading money for an experience? And if you don't want that experience, or you value other experiences more, for example, like let's say you have a family and kids, and you like them, you could stay home and be with your kids and lose no money, or you could go play poker and lose money, and you may not even like it, right? Make sure you know what you're signing up for. You say, that's why poker in Jersey is good. People have money here. Yeah, maybe they do. Am I coming to Pittsburgh? I don't know anything about a Pittsburgh tournament, but I've been to Pittsburgh before, and it's great. Did I see Short Deck No Limit Hold'em? Have I played it? What are my thoughts? No, I've not. Remember, we discussed this. I do not play random games for fun. Maybe I don't value the experience. I would actually say I don't value the experience. I do not enjoy... Actually, I do enjoy going to the casino to play poker, but I enjoy many other things way better. I'd much rather spend time with Mr. James. He's way more fun than all of you. So I do not play random games for fun. I do not see any value in investing a lot of time learning a game until that game is definitely going to be a game I need to play, and I don't think that's the case. Also, it seems like it's a relatively low skill game, meaning edges are very, very close, and those games often don't take a ton of experience to learn very proficiently. But I could be very, very wrong about this. You're not sure how to blend GTO and exploitative play. We discuss this almost every time. Maybe I need to write an article about this. People think you must be exploitative or you must be GTO. And that is just so not how anything in life works. If you are only a robot, you're going to miss a lot in both poker and life. If you only rely on emotions and psychology, you're going to miss a lot of value. And you have to understand that when you're playing most games, you need to initially approach them from a very logical point of view. What is a good strategy knowing nothing about my opponents? Because quite often you don't know a whole lot about your opponents, especially if you're playing online, beyond what stakes they're playing and how much money they have in front of them. Some people always say, oh, this guy's a total unknown to me. I don't know anything about him. But you know he's playing 1.12 with a $42 stack, right? It says a lot. Or, you know, he's playing 25.50 with a $50,000 stack. Right? These give you tips as to what they are doing. So start by learning fundamentally sound play, and then adjust to whatever your opponents are doing wrong. When you're playing against very good players, they're not doing much wrong. Or you may not know what they're doing wrong, in which case a very fundamentally sound strategy will be impossible to take, and you will subtly take advantage of whatever your opponents do wrong, even if you don't even know what they're doing wrong. That's really the power of GTO play, is you do not have to know what your opponent does wrong to beat them. And that's pretty cool. As long as they're doing something wrong. If you're both playing GTO, you're both going to lose the rake, but no one plays GTO yet. If you get two good players, they may both play very close to GTO, but like, let's say I'm supposed to continuation bet the flop in a spot 40% of the time. Or I know GTO is 40%, but I continuation bet 41%, and another guy continuation bets 48%. And everything else is the same. I'm going to crush that guy in the long run because he's playing farther away from GTO than me. However, let's say I know my opponent continuation bets the flop 100% of the time in a spot where he's supposed to continuation bet 40. Well, I should certainly adjust my strategies, right? I should adjust my defending range. I should be raising a lot, I should be calling a lot, etc. And not doing those things leaves a ton of money on the table. So, learn to play well, figure out what your opponents do wrong, and then adjust to take advantage of that. It seems like a good player might have a big edge in a new game. Typically they will, if you are a very good player. I have this other hypothesis, which I definitely cannot prove. But there are a lot of very high-stakes mixed game players who are very friendly. And I think these players invent games. This is my one conspiracy theory for everyone. I think these good players invent games, play them a lot on the side in their own time together, and then introduce them to the fish. I think that's what they do. And then they slaughter the fish for like 3 years. Fish figure out the games. Then they invent a new game. If you look at... you say the stream is freezing. That's not good. Oh, it does say some dropped frames. That's terrible. Let's see. Seems as though the internet is working. And no more frames are being dropped. Okay. Good. So anyway, if you invent a game and somehow get bad players to play it with you and you know the game and they don't, you're just going to demolish them. It's absolutely true. Okay, seems like no more frames are being dropped. Good. I say people often fold too often on the river in general. Is that why you often lean towards calling on close spots? No, their folding frequency should not have anything to do with my calling frequency. Think about that. So anyway, let's see. They're shadow banning you with my conspiracy theories, yeah. All right. Well, that was my talk on re-entry tournaments. I think they are awful for the economy long term. But that presumes that weak players will run out of money, and I don't think they are. Apparently, maybe that really is it. Maybe we solved it. Weak players are more than happy to give away 25% of their income each year to just play some poker. Maybe that's it. Also, re-entry tournaments are great for the casino. Casinos get to rake twice as much, 1.5 times as much. I don't know. I'm sure they know how much. I don't have any of these stats. I'm not a casino. But they're also good for the good players. I think a lot of people really just don't grasp the idea that they are not playing poker to win money or to even try to win money. They are playing poker for experience. Understand what you're doing, because that will drastically impact your decisions in life. And this applies to all aspects of life, right? Like, whenever you decide to have a bottle of wine at night, what are you doing? You're trading your health for an experience. And presumably you're trading some time in the morning if you're going to have a hangover. What about whenever you make a degenerate gambling bet? You're trading money for an experience. And it could easily hurt you in the future, because every time you make a degenerate gambling bet, you're presumably losing money. What about whenever you go to the gym? You're trading time. This assumes you don't enjoy going to the gym. I don't enjoy going to the gym. You're trading time for fitness, which hopefully will lead to increased longevity and, trading time for more time. And also feeling better, maybe satisfaction and whatnot. What makes you a good player? Is it just that I win or that I lose, or how do you win? How do you lose? I don't exactly know what you're asking. That's a broad question. All right, you caught live at the bike yesterday. 555 ante. Someone was up $18,000. How is that even remotely possible? Well, people are awful. Whenever you're playing live cash games, very often people will buy in very deep. And, 5-5, maybe they were straddling, maybe they were quadruple straddling. I played a 1-2 game at Stone's Gambling Hall, appropriately named. It is a gambling hall. And there are some Stone Wallies there. They were playing 1-2 75 straddle sometimes. Right? How can you lose $10,000 in a 1-2 game? Well, make the big blind 75. Call it a day. Especially make the big blind 75 when a weak player is in the big blind. Then you're really going to go off, right? You say live at the bike plays very deep, multiple straddles, etc. Yeah. 10 a.m.'s coming up. Yes, you're right. I have to go. I actually have a meeting at 10. It's now 9:42. All right. That's going to be it for today. This stream is Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. every day. We're going to do it. Even when I'm traveling, I think I'm going to be able to do it. Ooh, maybe not when I travel to Europe. Well, we'll have to figure that out. But 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Jay Carter, thanks for being here and looking out for me. Says 10 a.m.'s coming up. You better pack it up. That is absolutely accurate. Someone says, what's my favorite song? I don't really listen to music. I listen to a lot of podcasts. So that's it. I think today's Friday. Is today Friday? Today's Friday. So nothing tomorrow and the next day. Most likely. I will be posting Little Poker Advice on Twitter and YouTube and Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Can't post it on Twitch for some reason. Was the 75 straddle required? Oh, no, it was just for fun. They just like straddling to 75 there. How often do I go to Stones? Whenever they have me. I think I went twice last year, and it's always a lot of fun. All right, I'm going to go. Have a great day. Enjoy yourselves. I hope you enjoyed this talk on re-entry tournaments. If you did, please share it with your friends. That is by far the most beneficial thing you could do for me. If you like this, share it. If you don't like it, don't come back. You don't have to. Find something that you do like. If you're not having fun and you're not having a good time, go do something else. That's the secret to life, actually. Someone asked me, what's the secret to life? Enjoy yourself. If you're not having a good time, do something else. All right. Have a good day. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks again for being here. MW Lucian still asking, was the 75 straddle required? No, it was not. It was not required. Bye. Have a good week.